Happy Vlogmas Day 12. Today is Monday, December 12th. So today was my first day back to work after a weekend trip. I took no time off work to New York City, and I have to say that while New York City was awesome, going back to work the very next morning, not so much. But I made it. It was a gray, foggy day, but I survived. So I already found Pascal. What's funny is I walked all around here this morning and didn't see him. I was probably so tired, but he is actually right here. He usually gets me when he sneaks up to the higher locations because I tend to look down or straight, not up. And as you know, I'm sort of short. But yep, there he is, hanging out from our dining room chandelier. Crazy Pascal. So one thing I'm gonna do today is work on cooking a bit. One thing I like to do is batch cook. It makes it easy. Being gluten-free, I don't tend to eat out much, and I also don't eat at like our cafe at work because they actually openly say they may have cross-contamination. So I basically make everything from scratch probably 99% of the time when I'm not traveling. Once a week I like to get something ready-made, like you saw me eat that Udi's meal that wasn't very good, but I like to try something ready-made once in a while, but mostly I like cooking my own food. It usually tastes better, and I know the quality is better. So today I am going to make an egg frittata. It's actually not for dinner tonight, it's for breakfast. What I do is cook it and then I slice it up and freeze it. So join me while I do that. The ingredients for the frittata are pretty simple, and I actually don't even use a recipe anymore. I'm sure I did when I first started making them, but they're so simple, and I actually just throw in whatever I'm in the mood for. Sometimes it's things I already have on hand. This time I actually bought some things that I thought would be good because we didn't have a lot of groceries. We didn't shop this weekend, obviously, so I grabbed some groceries after work. I use this cast iron pan. I have a smaller one when I'm making like a breakfast one for Brian and I that I just want fresh and don't want to freeze, but this larger one you can see sort of compared to my hand size is pretty big. It's great for when I'm making more of a batch. So I've got some olive oil in there heating. I'm going to use chives, mushrooms, spinach, a dozen eggs, and the reason there's 2 out is one of them is partially empty. Got my handy Mickey cutting board. I'm gonna peel and chop 2 potatoes and put in some fresh parsley as well. So anyway, I'm gonna start chopping. All right, the first thing I'm gonna get going is the potatoes because they take the longest to cook out of everything here. Another ingredient I did not mention is black pepper. If you need a lot of black pepper, a tip, if you don't want to sit and grind it by hand, this is fine for, you know, a quick sprinkle on food, but if you don't want to do it by hand, use a coffee grinder. This is actually for me a spice grinder because I don't drink coffee, and I also would not recommend using the same one you use for coffee beans because everything will taste like coffee. But I grind all my spices that I do grind in here, like rosemary is another, dried rosemary, not fresh, is another good one to, you know, basically grind up in here, but I mostly use it for black pepper. This saves a lot of work if you use this. While the potatoes continue to cook, I'm going to go ahead and crack a dozen eggs. Exciting! making frittatas is don't beat the eggs too long. They will get fluffy and poof when you cook them, and then go flat when you take it back out, and you don't want that to happen. You want it to be fluffy and stay fluffy. So just beat them enough to mix the yolks in. Now I'm going to go ahead and stir in half of the cheese. I like to put the other half on the very top. Going to add the pepper. The potatoes have started to brown nicely, and they're actually starting to get soft, which is what you want. Not mushy soft, but just, you know, not crunchy. So I'm going to add the mushrooms. See if I can do this one-handed. Well, I do this much better while I'm not holding the camera, but here we go. Okay, that's looking really good. So I am now going to add the fresh spinach and just leave that in there long enough to wilt. This is so awkward one-handed. So this won't take long at all. I'm basically just going to let it wilt slightly because I don't want it tiny and you know, it'll turn really dark too if you overcook it. So just gonna leave it there a minute with a lid on so that it can wilt. And then I will throw in the rest of everything basically. Right now I'm gonna add these fresh herbs to the egg mix and also add some salt. I've already put the pepper in. There's all the fresh herbs. So that's the egg, half the cheese, salt, pepper, and herbs. As you can see, the spinach has wilted. This seriously took maybe 2 minutes tops with the lid on. And the mushrooms look good, potatoes look great. So I am now going to pour in the egg mix. And you just pour it right on top. If you're using cast iron, make sure it's seasoned or it will stick, and it's probably gonna stick a little anyway, but I'm okay with that. And also be sure you use some oil, which was already in there to saute the vegetables. So I'm gonna pour that in. And then I am actually gonna put the rest of the cheese on the top. And I don't know if I can do this one-handed, but I will try. I would normally take this out in my hand and do it, but that's a little awkward one-handed. This just makes it nice and cheesy on the top. You could put all the cheese inside, it really doesn't matter. But this gives it a nice, I don't know, cheesy top. I like it. So that's pretty much it for that, and I let it sit on the stove. I'm actually going to turn the heat up to medium. I turned it down a little with the veggies in there and let it sit for about 5 minutes or so, but I just kind of keep an eye on it until it kind of sets. So like right now it's super liquidy, but it's sometime in the near future, and I'm mashing these vegetables down with my finger because I don't want them sticking out. It will basically set up so that it's not so runny. Once it hits that point, I've preheated the oven to 350 and I will put it in there for about 10 minutes. Again, I keep checking it, and you can just insert like a knife and see if it comes out clean. You do not want to overcook. That's why I don't give exact times. Everyone's stove is different, because if you overcook it, it is not good. It's almost better to leave it a little undercooked, especially if you're going to reheat it, like in my case. While the frittata is cooking, which by the way I checked at 10 minutes was not done, you basically shake the pan, and if it's still jiggling around, it's not done. I made my lunch salads for the next 3 days. And if you saw my other video, this is what I put the chicken on top of that I cook and freeze in 3-ounce servings, and I'll try to put a link to that right up there in case you missed it. But I found you can make 3 of these and they keep fine. If you make 4, the 4th one will go bad. They're good for 3 days. So this is, well, I should say 3 days after I make it, so I won't eat it today. It'll be, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. So it's just very simple. I chop romaine and wash it, put 2 kinds of olives, Kalamata and green, feta cheese, oregano, pepper, artichoke hearts, and is that it? Oh, and lemon juice. I do not put dressing on it. I think with the feta and the oregano and the lemon juice, it's got plenty of flavor. So it's sort of a Greek style, I guess you would call it. It's just things I love. And like I said, then I put the chicken in the microwave for 30 seconds just so that it's not cold or frozen, and put that on top, and ta-da, salad. So I eat a lot of these. I sort of alternate with that homemade soup you saw me make on the other video. So anyway, there's an idea if you're looking for lunch ideas. As soon as I finish showing you guys my salads, I checked the frittata and it is done. Sorry I couldn't show pulling it out of the oven, which would have been lovely, but it is heavy. These cast iron pans that are large like this are very, very heavy, and especially once you fill them up with food. And also, I wanted to mention this, if you don't have one of these and you do use cast iron, I highly recommend it. It's not only great for getting it out of the oven, it also keeps you from burning yourself after you bring it out of the oven, because this pan will stay hot for a very long time, and so you might forget and grab it. These are, they're sort of like metal on the inside and then cloth on the outside. I never put them in the oven. It might be safe, I don't know, I wouldn't recommend it. But as soon as I get ready to bring it out, I slide it on and leave it on until the pan completely cools so I don't burn myself. If you are going to serve this for your family or something, I actually recommend leaving it in the cast iron pan and just slicing it carefully so you don't scratch your pan up. I use a butter knife with the rounded tip. All I did was loosen it around the edge and then flip it out onto this cutting board. My Mickey one, which is up there drying, is a little too small for this. Even this one's a little too small and it's bigger. I'm just going to cut it into equal portions that will fit in a small 2-cup Pyrex dish, and then I can take that for breakfast. So ready-made healthy breakfast. That made 8 breakfasts. And for those of you who may not know, you cannot wash cast iron unless you want it to rust and lose its non-stick properties. So you just wipe the food out, and if it's already seasoned, the food shouldn't really stick anyway, but if there is any, wipe it out. And then you wipe it down with some kind of oil or fat. And then I put it in the oven while the oven's still cooling. The oven's off, but it's hot. And that sort of bakes in that non-stick quality. So I hope you have enjoyed me making a frittata. I hope you've enjoyed today's Vlogmas, which was me cooking a frittata. And hopefully some of that was useful, or you might want to try a frittata if you've never made one. I find them super easy, and like I said, it's a great breakfast to make ahead of time and then reheat. Yes, eggs get a little rubbery when you reheat them, but I don't mind. It's not that bad as long as you don't over reheat them. What I do is I freeze them and then I take it down the night before, and that way it's mostly thawed by the morning, and then I only have to microwave it for a short time. So anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your Monday, and I will see you tomorrow on Tuesday. Bye.